You are Mr. Presbyterian, deep, solitary voice of commanding authority.
Sure. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sour Popcorn Podcast. I'm Jake.
And I am Zach.
This week we'll be discussing Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg's latest venture, and ghost stories. But before we begin, we have some awful news.
Sadly, in the late hours of last night, documentary filmmaker Jon Schnepp, member of the Collider Video family and also big member of the Screen Junkies family, unfortunately passed away. He had a fatal stroke, and the decision was made by his wife, his fiance, and his sister to take him off of life support because it was for just their decision. It's a real devastating loss. He was a really great guy from the content that I personally had seen him in, and we also wanted to put across that if you get the chance, try and watch his documentary feature, The Death of Superman Lives. It's a great documentary, explores the cancellation of the supposedly planned Tim Burton Superman movie with Nicolas Cage. It's really well done, really well made, and it just gives you kind of a taste of who he is as a person, and it's a real quality and knowledge that he always demonstrated in any videos I ever saw him in.
I first found out about him on Collider's comic book shopping series on YouTube, and he just seemed like such a funny, nice guy, and it's just such devastating news.
Yeah. Thoughts go out to his family, of course.
But a story which has many people confused and is a lot more complex than would be first assumed. James Gunn has been fired by Disney. He's been kicked off of Guardians, and this seems a lot more like a Disney move rather than a Marvel move.
Marvel has had a big name in it, like the Marvel head, I believe his name's Anthony Newell, I think. Like, he came out and made a pretty big statement about it, kind of like how they completely just have no tolerance for his behaviour, like his comments that were made a few years ago, and it's just not in keeping with their business model or their practices, and they kind of don't want that as a part related to their company. But, like, for those who don't know, he recently came under controversy, James Gunn, for like some tweets that I think he posted
about 5 years ago.
Yeah, even that.
And I think the last one was about 2012-ish.
Yeah, like before he was very, very big than they were. I admit they are disgusting, some of them, if you read them.
Oh, the actual tweets.
Yeah, they're quite disgusting.
But he did recently, in the past 2 days, say that he used to be one of the controversial people where he tried to say these things to start a conversation rather than just, he said he also did it for shock value.
Yeah.
But he said that he never believed them to be okay, and he hasn't actually done any crimes. And Disney acted very quickly on this, but I'm still on the fence because on one hand it's like it is a joke and it was a long time ago. It's not like he's tweeting them now, and he's changed as a person, as an artist, because he even said that he wouldn't dream of doing that now.
Yeah, exactly.
But then
you see what he's like on Twitter today. He's just a lovely bloke.
Yeah, and he's quite politically active, but he doesn't write such awful things about certain topics. But I'm a bit on the fence with it all. Like,
me personally, I agree with the decision. I feel Disney's in the right or Marvel is in the right if they wish to make this decision.
Oh yeah, they're perfectly within their power to do so. I just
think the process by which it was handled was poor. I think this was a 24-hour decision. I think this is something where you take some time to think about it. Like, you would maybe issue a statement, like giving confirmation of, you don't agree with this, and then maybe you have a discussion with Mr. Gunn, but I don't believe that an automatic just dismissal is really justified, particularly given Johnny Depp still works with Disney and makes millions of dollars for every role he's in.
This sort of raises two questions. One of them is I don't know if he'd fully finished it, but he'd already done a lot of the script for Guardians 3.
I think he's finished it because production was meant to start this fall, and I think they wouldn't go into that soon if he hadn't.
So I don't know if they're either going to rewrite it or because they don't want to give him a writing credit, or if they're just going to use his script but change directors.
I think they will keep the script because Marvel is just that machine at this point. It's like you kind of can't hold these up. Like, that 2020 release date is now set, and they kind of need to abide by it. So I would believe that
The dude abides.
yeah, like they try and keep going with it, and they try and bring someone in who can maybe replicate the style. I mean,
But would you want a replication of his style, or would you want more someone coming in and doing their own voice, like what Taika did with Ragnarok?
I liked that with Ragnarok because that specifically brought freshness to what was, in my opinion, a very stale and low quality trilogy. Whereas with the Guardians trilogy, they're just so distinctly James Gunn. I think it would be impossible to try and do something. I read an article about someone that they thought would be a great replacement for him, and it's kind of controversial, but it's Karen Gillan. Because she has recently taken up a great deal of producer roles. Like, she was great with the Jumanji, the latest film. Like, she really heavily produced that.
She's
She did a
also
lot of
directed
work.
a
She's
recent
directing
one.
recent. And, like, people were making the point of if Guardians 3 is a prequel to Infinity War, she probably won't be in it very much because that's part of that time where she's going off to look for Thanos. Or if she dies in Infinity War and then this is set after Infinity War Part 2, then that doesn't give... That means she doesn't have to be in the film so much. She could take a step back and then do the directing. Like, she's been a part of the previous two films
Yeah, she's been
quite
on
heavily.
set for it, so
She's
she
experienced
knows
what
it's
it
like.
is.
Yeah.
She knows how to work with the actors, and I feel like it's not a safe bet. It's not a guarantee, but I just feel she'd be strong. Like, it'd be an
Yeah.
interesting choice, even.
There has also been a trend lately of giving people who've done an indie film then suddenly a bigger budget than, like, Ridley Scott's spoken out against it recently, but that it has been a trend. So I don't think it's completely illogical to say.
Yeah, I mean, no matter who you pick, it's going to be a distinctly different movie because James Gunn has just got his fingers just in the veins of what those two Guardians movies are. You can see his directorial voice just in every frame.
Like, even in Infinity War, he recommended the song that they used to
Yeah.
come into, and he also said, like, wrote a few lines for them, and, like, he is essentially the behind the scenes man of Guardians, because most mainstream people won't notice or won't have any clue when they go and see it.
Yeah, exactly. But some of us will clearly. And
Yeah.
I think it says a lot as well because Gunn is one of those very few directors within the MCU who is kind of given a little bit of free reign.
Yeah,
like,
because
very
he
much.
created the whole space bit. Like,
Yeah, and he made it so perfect that it's
Yeah.
like, right, just leave this guy alone just to let him work his magic. So,
I do wish him all the best for the future, and I think he's definitely learnt his lesson with
yeah.
what's said online.
I think it also calls into question because he was hyping something up for this Comic-Con. Like, he released that logo for something. It was kind of like a bloodstained logo, and I think he was hyping up for a release for that for this Comic-Con that he was involved with. But I don't know now what that's going to become if...
I imagine that'll stay
Yeah.
out of it, and maybe he won't go to a certain panel because I imagine he's pretty upset about
Yeah,
this.
I imagine he'd want to take some time, which who wouldn't? And you could also make the point with Marvel as well. Like, I think this was his Guardians 3 is meant to be his last outing with Marvel because
Yeah.
it's the final iteration of what the current Guardians will be in Guardians 3. At least then, if he is not involved after Guardians 3, you can then get someone new in to kind of make it their own, and then it maybe won't feel as disjointed if they do release a third one without him.
Yeah, and Disney, like, I think it's quite commendable like how quickly they acted. But again, Zach
Yeah,
said there are pros and cons to it. But also, normally with things like this, something comes out, people try and sweep it under the rug, and then when it can't be swept under the rug anymore, that's then when people tend to act. Whereas here,
Yeah.
Disney were just like, right, this is happening. No, out.
But I mean, like, Disney would have seen this when they hired him.
Yeah,
Like, they're required to look through things like social media, background occupations. You would have thought maybe when they saw this originally, it would have been maybe like a tiny bit of an alarm bell.
and James Gunn is that sort of person that does stand out, not only in his work but also what he says, because he's not just like a hired gun director. He actually has his own visions, and
Yeah.
they knew exactly what they were doing when they brought him on. But I don't think Disney can have their name brought through the mud.
No, definitely not. And I think it will send tidal waves kind of through what Marvel will be, because I mean, like, the Guardians are, if it's not Avengers, they're the biggest selling part of the MCU, pretty much. And I think to change it so radically, and then to have, like, I think it was this morning, Dave Bautista was like tweeting, he's like, oh, Gunn's one of the most brilliant, nice people I know. I'm really not happy about this.
Yeah.
I think it will reverberate quite heavily throughout the company.
I think I'd definitely be 100% on the side of Disney if Gunn was tweeting this like yesterday or something.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was talking about it now, but he has said that he's moved on from it, and I think a lot of celebrities last night were deleting a lot of tweets.
Oh, I mean, I would be in that scenario, but it's very much the case of we are not who we were 5 years ago. I think he said it quite clearly. If you were speaking to me 5 years ago, you would not be speaking to me. It's a very different person, and that's a sentiment I can agree with wholeheartedly, because we all change, we all mature.
Yeah.
Tastes and humour change. But it'll be an interesting story, and we look forward to seeing where it will go. Like, if he is rehired, I guarantee there'll be a petition by the end of the night, like, rehire James Gunn or something.
I think even if there is a petition, even if everyone in the world signed it, I doubt Disney would be like, oh, okay, let's bring him back on. But I think because he has made the Guardians so big, he won't struggle to find work.
No, definitely not. He'll be back before we know it. It just may take some time.
I saw a perfect tweet that summed up like my thoughts on the whole situation. It was by Houston Productions, and he's just said, deeply heartbroken by all aspects of the James Gunn situation. Heartbroken that a creative inspiration of mine would be so foolish and repulsive with his words, and equally disheartened that it had to cost him his artistic brainchild, even after he'd seemingly grown as a person. That's my laptop shouting out there. But that's sort of where I stand on the situation as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same for me. And there was another one that I believe it was by David Tolkien, who's recently had his account blocked, but he was saying about
Gotti,
because of Gotti, which is fantastic, fight the man. But he also made the point, I made it earlier, it's like, let's get rid of like a really kind of nice guy who has owned up to his mistakes, instead of, oh, let's hire Johnny Depp for another Alice in Wonderland movie or another Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Which we won't get into, but that's just my thoughts on the matter. We've been talking about Comic-Con as well, like how Gunn was hyping up a big release, but we are also in the midst of Comic-Con at the moment. We've had like the pleasure to look at some of the like footage and things we really enjoyed.
There have been trailers released for loads of things, like Doctor Who looks potentially interesting, but we'll talk about that in a future episode.
Hope to be discussing that soon.
But yeah, quite a lot's been fairly promising this year.
Yeah,
and there seems to be
really
quite
surprised.
Positive buzz about it, because sometimes it's like, oh, this is coming, but something that hasn't had quite a positive buzz. Fuck Batman. Let's just say the Titans looks like a Titanic failure. It's already a sinking ship.
I honest to God wish we could have had a face cam recording me when I watched the trailer for this, because I think it would have been pure gold. Like, the rage that was seething in my heart. Like, I've never really been the biggest Teen Titans fans. I watched the original series. I hate Teen Titans Go just because it's
I love the original series, but
the original series.
Go is
hate Go. And then I thought, right, is a chance for them to maybe do something a little bit different here. I wasn't really that interested. And I'd seen how awful the cast photos looked. And I thought, it can't be that bad when you actually see them. And not only is this an awful looking trailer, it's one of the worst just trailers I think ever made. Like,
it has so many stock sound effects.
Like, when he breaks the guy's neck with his foot, it literally sounds like he stood on like a can of Pringles or something and just crushed that. It's the most awful, like, it had me in no sense of the word excited of the show. It just looked generic. If the trailer had ended with Shadowhunters Season 4, I would have understood completely, but
I will give this show a chance. I will watch the first episode and see what I feel now and see what it's like, because I'm not going to completely dismiss it straight away. Although there is a way that they can redeem it in my eyes completely, even if the show is awful, even if everything. Because I remember with the original series, Cartoon Network on their website had a fantastic game on Teen Titans. And even if they use the hideous designs of the new live-action series, if they bring back that game and the mechanics that was on the website, I feel like we're in for something special.
You're killing me. It becomes so hard at times just to do this review. It hurts. It doesn't hurt as much as the Beast Boy outfit, though. I think that's the worst looking one of the lot. They've just literally dyed his hair green and given him green contacts, and it.
I think it says something when Video Game High School, which was a series just put out on YouTube by Rocket Jump, actually very good. With, I don't think the budget was that big either, and that has much better special effects than something like this, which is actually made by a proper studio.
I really don't know what to say of it other than just disappointment. And I mean, you put Hawk and Dove in it, then they're by no means one of the big lot you'd stick in there. I can think of a few more sidekicks I'd throw in to this show before I'd even consider Hawk and Dove. Speedy would have been at least considered. Kid Flash would be something interesting. Then you can get some certain people interested from the CW universe, but it screamed generic and angst and.
I don't know, just like the dog and the dogs. Having a whine and a moan.
Like I did after seeing Titans.
So sorry if you hear clomping in the background, that's just the dogs being dogs.
Yeah. They will be dogs.
Something
also kind of annoyed me with the Titans video. They released this trailer as the big announcing thing for their streaming service, the DC streaming service. And then the next day they released the Young Justice Season 3 trailer. It really confuses me why they don't just release Young Justice for the DC streaming thing as their main content, as their first main trailer. It's we're here, we're doing something that you're really excited about. This is a show about sidekicks that you've really been waiting for and actually won. No, let's just release the angsty Titans and hope that goes well. Because the Young Justice Season 3 trailer looks really good. It looks like everything I wanted out of a Season 3. Titans is nothing that I will ever want. Just, that's the end of my little rant on that. The DC streaming service does look good.
A trailer that was very interesting that I thought is actually giving the fans what they want, which I think they were trying to do with Titans. That Clone Wars trailer.
Oh, I exploded with that. My God.
People, I've doubted Kathleen Kennedy in the past. I get she's not perfect with the Star Wars franchise, but she was criticised a lot with The Last Jedi on... Oh, she... Dog yawning there.
The dog is very happy that Clone Wars is coming back.
And she was criticised as not actually liking the source material, not liking fans, not giving them what they want. But this just shows that she at least somewhat cares. I
remember when I was writing down my prediction list for what we were expecting to appear at this Comic-Con, my big one was the debut of, or some sort of trailer of Star Wars Resistance. That was going to be the big thing. That was going to be the big thing Star Wars did for this Comic-Con. And then just to throw this into the mix and just oh God, it's back. They brought something back that they cancelled quite deliberately. And just to recapture, I think, everything that I liked about it. The animation looks exactly the same. It looks like it had never gone. When I first watched
Anakin
Rebels,
has longer hair. That's it.
Rebels looked very different in certain ways in terms of animation style.
A little bit more childish.
Yeah. Whereas Clone Wars, they've gone back to that style, and it's like it's never gone. It felt like, it's just the season I've been waiting for. I haven't been waiting for 4 years.
Yeah, and while yes, I would like to see other parts of the Star Wars universe covered and everything. That's for different series. That's for different Star Wars stories. Yeah. This is something that everyone has been waiting for a conclusion for.
Yeah.
And yes, they've hinted at things in Rebels, but they haven't given it that final oomph. And I feel like if they have waited this long, I feel like they've got the writers together and they have a good story.
Yeah, I think if it's going off what they originally had intended, and I think this is only a 12-episode series, so... I think we will receive kind of that conclusive conclusion. Whether at the end of it is setting up Revenge of the Sith, you don't know. But I think to bring back that team, it kind of speaks quite highly as to what it will be, and it will be a return to kind of what it was and what they hoped that final season would be.
Do you reckon they'll use any of... Because I know in the last series of Rebels, they introduced time travel into Star Wars. Do you reckon they're going to do any of that? Or
I would hope not. I hope that's something that they keep new for Resistance. Because that's a very interesting concept to maybe base a show around, and then they save something for that with the new show. I think Clone Wars is It's got enough interesting story points to like focus on itself, especially if it is
They
now
have,
moving into
they have
Revenge of the
enough
Sith.
loose ends to wrap up.
Yeah,
itself
really. So I
without
think to try and
opening
introduce
more.
something like that, it just makes it difficult.
Also, with the time travel, do you reckon, and would you want them to introduce them into the main films, or just keep them to the side stuff? But for the casual fans, because they'd have to put it in layman's terms for everyone to be on board with it in the films.
Not in the main trilogies, no. Maybe in a Star Wars story of some kind, because I think the Star Wars stories have shown great capability just to throw them in there and kind of say, like, to the fans that know, yep, this is that thing you wanted, whereas the regular people, it's like, yep, just get used to who this character is. And I think that's where it would work, and I think if it's in the main trilogy, it can look good. It would be interesting to maybe try and explore something, but I think you've got enough problems to deal with in the main trilogy. Maybe don't try and link those in.
Like, while they have made a few missteps in small parts in films and even whole films as missteps, I don't want a Days of Future Past Star Wars.
No, really not.
Like, Days of Future Past, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
Like, it worked for X-Men because people know what they're getting with X-Men, whereas Star Wars is supposed to be is more self-contained narrative.
Yeah, we've kind of got set ideals of what Star Wars is, and I think, and we have to remember this is a cartoon, so to maybe take one of the greatest film franchises of all time and to create an artistic liberty within a spin-off cartoon, maybe not the best foundation to do it on full time.
Yeah. Something that had me checking my calendar to see what year it was. People are excited for an M. Night Shyamalan film. And so am I.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled for this film. Like, welcome back to 2004, when M. Night Shyamalan could be considered one of the greats, when Time Magazine would call him the next Spielberg. Glass looks just the most zany, crazy thing in the world. It's either got the capability to be amazing or just utter garbage.
Do you think this film will focus more on all three of them and their whole dynamic together, or do you think because Willis had his film in Unbreakable, McAvoy had Split, do you reckon this will be Jackson's film tying up ends from the others for the other characters, or do you reckon it is going to be an ensemble film?
I think it's going to be very much an ensemble based on the way they lay out that trailer, because it's like when Sarah Paulson is kind of like talking through them, you're seeing very specific set pieces for all three characters. It's like Kevin Wendell Crumb's dealing with the new elements of the Beast, like David Dunn, I believe it was David, wasn't it? I haven't seen Unbreakable in years. Yeah, like he's dealing with like getting older but still having to use his powers, and then Mr. Glass, it's like, I think the way they laid that trailer out, it kind of cemented the fact that not only will all three of them be very heavily involved in it, I think it will be something that not only serves as a brilliant sequel to Unbreakable, but it will also be that continuation from Split that I think we all wanted.
Shyamalan's known for his big twists. Do you reckon there will be one here, or it will be more? Because it seems to me like this is very set out narrative. But do you reckon he has something under his sleeve?
I mean, I don't know. I would not be surprised if he was able to force one in. Like,
I wouldn't want one for
surprise
the
me.
sake of one.
Yeah.
Maybe if there was a big surprise reveal or a big revelation in a B plot or something that's set up in that film, but I don't want one that's just forced in there.
I want, at the very end of this film, the Beast is on one end of the ring and then David Dunn is at the other. They're in Central Park or something. They're ready for the climactic showdown. Suddenly from the sky there is lightning.
I don't like this.
A portal opens and out comes a spaceship. It lands in the ground and out crawls Mark Wahlberg. Oh no, that's the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. That's not M. Night Shyamalan.
Did you think M. Night Shyamalan?
I thought M. Night Shyamalan did Planet of the Apes for a brief minute. I'm really sorry. My brain was on After Earth initially, and then I thought, oh no, let's do Planet of the Apes.
Sorry, we are having some technical difficulties at this minute. Please bear with us.
Stupid.
I was like, what the hell is he? Oh, Mark Wahlberg. Oh, yeah, that's Planet of the Apes. Why is he bringing Planet of the Apes into this?
I'm really sorry, Internet. Alright, let's completely redraft that. At the very end, suddenly the wind grows very, very cold. Suddenly, there's
angry
a
Will
tension
Smith.
in the air. What comes over that hill is Aang from The Last Airbender. He has a stick in his hand and he is ready to fight the forces of evil. He has appeared. It confirms that it's all in one big Shyama universe.
The Shalamaverse.
Shalamaverse, that works.
Sorry, I'm patenting that, so I want some royalties when you create the Shyamalan-verse.
Yeah, just let me profusely apologise to Tim Burton for thinking that your awful movie had been directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
I'm sorry, your awful film.
I think even he agrees with it. He said he'd never do another one, even if he was paid.
But back to the regularly scheduled programming.
Back to Glass.
This trailer actually looked really good, like with the music, because it didn't have the Inception horns, and while it had the conventional, obviously ramping up with the action, it felt fresh because it had the more slower song. Even when it was fast paced, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of that in my own work, but it seemed fresh.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well, in the sense that I was thinking this was going to be like they do this conjoined film where the two films essentially meet, but they wouldn't reference the previous events. They are very much so going back to those ideas, like the fact that Sarah Paulson's character is deliberately and exploring the relationship between Mr. Glass and David, and then also you're getting the return of Anya Taylor-Joy, thank you God, to like try and do that reigniting of that relationship between her and Kevin, which is an interesting thing. And then the fact that James McAvoy is bringing out more of the personalities, like I think... Is it me, or was there a Mexican one that he did at one point?
There was.
I think there was a Mexican one, and then there's the returning favourites, like Patricia's back, the little James, I think it was called, the one that like wanders around his feet. He's like, "You want to play with me? I want to play with my toys." Like just that crazy little kid one.
In Split, I was originally annoyed that we didn't see all of them, but then I thought, oh, they weren't relevant to the story.
Yeah.
Whereas here, they will show them, and it unlocks it for the sequel rather than this one just treading the same ground as the others.
Yeah, because Split basically opens with the premise that like he's seeing the therapist he's seeing because it's like he feels that he doesn't have his brain invaded by the other personalities. Like he is that, just he's okay. Whereas now, the fact that he is in a mental asylum, you've got the opportunity with Sarah Paulson as well for her character to then really dive deep into like, Jesus Christ, how weird is this guy? Like, how many personalities has he really got?
Do you reckon Sarah Paulson has powers? And she's just using it to manipulate them. Say even if the big twist is she is essentially like Sylar from Heroes.
Yeah, that'd be
where
something.
She's got them all there, she's learning a lot about them, and then she kills one of them or something. She gets one of their powers or something like that.
First of all, thank you for a great reference to one of the best television villains of all time. Thank you. But yeah, that'd be something interesting to see, and I think Sarah Paulson is proving to be such an amazing actor in like everything she does, whereas in this trailer they don't give her a lot. She's kind of just the generic, oh, I'm the one that brings them, I'm the one that moves the story forward. So I think to maybe then build her into some kind of twist or save her better parts for the film, I think it will be interesting to see what she does, and I would guarantee she's got something big to do with the story because she is great.
Also, little side note, because Sarah Paulson, American Horror Story, the new image they released for American Horror Story Apocalypse, what are they doing with babies? I think they just saw Death Stranding and thought, oh, babies are going to be a thing. Let's just make something with babies.
Yeah, I'm always excited for American Horror Story. Always, no matter how poorish the previous seasons are. Like, if I didn't like Hotel, I would still be excited for Roanoke because it's something fresh. This is the first time I've ever been not interested in American Horror Story because let's just return back to Murder House and do a story about the Antichrist and throw in some of the Coven characters to please the fans. That reeks of just narrative laziness for me that they weren't able to come up with another one. I would honestly rather see another original story. Like we're only getting 2 more seasons.
Oh, I thought this was the final season.
No, we got 1 more season after this because they're doing they have to do 7, no, 8, 9. Yeah, what am I saying? I think because it's the 9 layers of hell. They have to do 9 seasons, and I would honestly just prefer another original story because Murder House and Coven just end on those perfect narrative notes, like the Antichrist is born to wreak havoc, Sarah Paulson is the Supreme, but it's like realising it's like, Christ, this will never be for long, I will be usurped before my time. They work so well, those endings, and then just to re-explore it, just kind of what will be for a little bit for fan service, it sends a bad message in my mind. If it's good, that's amazing, that's a really good surprise. But
yeah, I'm guessing they have a story that they want to tell here. But in my head, I would logically see it as have the second to last as another original story, and then have the last one wrap all of them together, because they've already said how they
Yeah.
wanted to do that, and they've already had references between them and
Oh
certain
yeah,
characters.
like the previous seasons have had like some really big crossovers,
Yeah.
like really well done.
What is this, a crossover episode? But I'm hoping that they're doing it because they have a story to tell rather than just fan service.
Or
But
because we can.
but I'm also very much up to fan service.
Yeah. And if it means that we do see some returns of the better actors of that show, like Dennis O'Hare and Kathy Bates,
Yeah.
then I'm in.
I personally dropped out at Coven because I enjoyed it, but I didn't
No, I get
particularly
that. I get that.
enjoy that series that much. And I want a series to come along where everyone's unanimously like, this is fucking fantastic again. And then that will then draw me back in, because beforehand, when I've been speaking to people about it, they've been like, oh yeah, it is good, you should check it out. But then I've been meaning to. It's not like I've completely written it off. It's just other things have come up where suddenly everyone's talking about this, everyone's talking about Westworld.
Yeah.
So I've been watching that.
Westworld, you must finish.
Whereas here it's like I want a reason to have to jump back in again.
Yeah, it's very much the trend with American Horror Story. They haven't had a fully good season since season 2. Season 1 and 2 are good from start to
They are
finish.
bloody fantastic.
4,
Perfect.
5, 6, and like even the most recent seasons like Cult and Roanoke and even Hotel, they're good for certain points. Like it'll be 5 episodes amongst the whole thing that's great, and then the rest is just kind of so-so. They haven't had a season that's great from start to finish. There's always great moments in every season, but
Do you reckon they should
yeah.
take a leaf out of Clone Wars book and what they're seeming to do with this final series of Clone Wars and have fewer episodes to tell the story that they have
Yeah.
rather than add in filler?
That's what it needs to become again, like a bit more of a narratively focused show, because that's what I love so much about Asylum. Like, you are watching it because you want to see her escape, you want to see her get out, whereas with the latest ones, they're just character pieces. Like Hotel didn't really have a plot, it was just, let's just see where these characters go because they're interesting, and that's a great idea, but don't do that for every single season, because that's what they've been doing, particularly with Cult.
And like with Asylum, yes, they had their certain episodes where it suddenly went off on a certain character, but it all looped round at the end and it all made sense and it all weaved in with each other. And while it left some things ambiguous, it all did mesh together.
Yeah, I mean, when you had like the little deviations in the main plot, it was like it would serve a purpose for the
Yeah,
higher
like
story.
when it suddenly went on to the trombone player, the axe man.
Yeah.
I can't remember what.
Yeah, the
instrument he
Axeman.
played, but
Yeah,
I think
like that then
like
looped back
it
in.
then looped back in. and
Whereas like in
worked.
the later seasons, they did one about in Hotel. It's like it was a great idea. I love seeing it, but it was like they did an episode with Jeffrey Dahmer and Eileen Wuornos and the Zodiac turn up, and it's like you kind of do nothing with it. Optimistically concerned is what I will say about American Horror Story Apocalypse, and I think the title says it all.
First review.
Let's go.
Right, so our first review for this week is Steven Spielberg's latest outing. It's coming out this week or
Yep, it
next
comes
week.
out this week, I believe, on Blu-ray.
Home release.
Yep.
And the story follows Mr. Wade Watts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially a whole load of characters, copyrights and patents and trademarks all put into a boiling pot. Some things work, some things don't.
It is basically Member Berries the movie. Remember this? Remember that?
I feel like Zach's going to have a lot more to say about this than I do, because he went back, he read the book, and he's doing a whole thing about it.
Yeah, I feel like I love and hate this movie at the same time. I love it in the way that it can make me feel, like how it is just so pleasing to see those characters. It is so pleasing to see the Oasis realised, but at the same time, I don't mind that they change bits from the book, but I just think the book's a lot more subtle, and I think some of the story element...
Subtle?
Yeah, the book is a lot more like...
Oh, because I'm guessing it was just a certain extract to prove this person's point, but I was reading an article on it on how like the book doesn't do subtle references. It's just like bam, and it's just like, oh, the TARDIS from Doctor Who, and then it also had another page where it just completely lists a whole load of things rather than including it and weaving it into the narrative. It's like,
in which case, that I would completely agree with you. The Easter egg segments of it are
yeah.
very on the nose, just as the movie is. But I think some of the narrative points, like about how like there's a lot more feeling of in the book of they explain that the Oasis is essentially a bad thing. The Oasis isn't something that we should enjoy. At the end of the film, there's just that little message. Oh yeah, we closed the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays because it's bad to not always spend time in reality. In the book, it's like you've like seen kind of what it does to people, and you think, yeah, this is maybe not the best thing to have. The book literally ends with, I think, the sentence, "Oh, I didn't feel like I needed to go into the Oasis anymore." But yeah, in the film, it's kind of like still idolized as this perfect place.
Although Spielberg himself has said how it is a warning against technology without trying to be too preachy about it. And the Ready Player One Twitter account was, like, obviously it's the perfect synergy and opportunity to do it, but they were promoting like a virtual reality Oasis game, and it's like, isn't the whole film to deter people from doing this? Like, instead of actually encouraging and creating?
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are points of this film that I love. Like, this film certainly shakes up the boring elements of the book. Like, in the book, I don't know if you've read it, but he's not like this cool guy who wanders from place to place and still going on missions. He is stuck in a virtual reality school. It's like you aren't allowed to leave until you get to a certain age. That's what you have to use the Oasis for. And he spends the majority of his time there. But to then instantly open this up with, like, you've got the Megadeth race, and you've got, like, The Shining, which...
Yeah.
Although it was blasphemy, was still a beautiful recreation. Like, the set pieces in this, they made it feel so much more cinematic, enjoyable.
Oh, it was completely cinematic. Like, when they were looking back through his memories, and they were twiddling with certain things, and it was zooming in and out and whatever. You can tell how much fun Spielberg's having with all this.
Yeah, definitely. Like, this is... He's very much, right, I've got to go for this one, get on to the next project. And you can tell, like, he was very excited to jump into this, like, the freedom he had.
Yeah. Like, with this one, I'd say that narratively, with characters and writing, it isn't the strongest. Like, it definitely has its problems. But talking...
We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah. But talking visually and how he directed it all, Spielberg is Steven Spielberg for a reason.
It was astounding. Like, some of the scenes in this film, like, for me particular, I remember when the Gundam jumps out the ship, I was screaming because I was just so excited, so impressed, and it was just one of those sequences that I long for. But then, like, when it comes to the character moments, it's just poor. It's like, oh, she's got a birthmark, that doesn't make her beautiful.
It's like, why doesn't that... She's still really attractive.
She's Olivia Cook. She's one of the most attractive people in the world. Don't ever claim just because she's got that she's not attractive. And it's like, oh, H is really a woman. That's a big thing.
Did anyone doubt that for a second?
No.
Why was that a thing? Like, everyone knew that this actress was in the film. She was really good in Masters of None. So it's not like she's an unknown, and she wasn't in the press tour, like, for this all to be like a big shocking revelation. I think if they just played it off as like, oh, we thought it was a oh, I thought you were a dude, oh, and then they move on with it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think they sort of were trying to make a big deal out of it without trying to make a big deal about it, and sort of couldn't really find that middle ground.
It felt like the director's set pieces, like the action stuff, were made for a modern film, but the kind of character elements and the narrative was made for like a 1982 film. Like, it kind of felt very trapped in the past.
But like the action scene of the race, and when he's underneath it, and that one shot of just from the back of the car, and Spielberg's fucking great, man.
Like, I think it also speaks very loud when companies were willing just to throw their licenses at him for this, because
that's how Who Framed Roger Rabbit got all the licenses to all the animated characters, because Spielberg was producing, because everyone's just like, Spielberg, yes please, I would like a piece of that pie.
Like, it's scary how much there is here. Like, I think it'd be beautiful to go through frame by frame and see how much is honestly there.
Like climbing Everest with Batman and everything like that.
What is your favourite Easter egg in the film? I've got two.
Iron Giant's the obvious one, because even like just showing people the trailer, like when I showed my dad the trailer, he was like, oh, this is alright, and then everyone's like, oh, this looks alright, and then suddenly Iron Giant's out, it's like, holy shit,
this is big. This is a good thing.
I'm not really sure on my favourite Easter egg.
I've got the little one because the Big Daddy from Bioshock does appear in the final battle, which made me scream when I saw it. No one else cared. But no, my favourite one is when Artemis drags him in the room and she does the chest burster.
Oh yes, yes.
To scare him. That's That was just like, yeah, just let me marry this person. This is my perfect human being. Just
At first, when they did that, I thought, bloody hell, they're really going for it in like a 12 film. And then it's like, oh yeah, it is just like a fake suit. But
I like how it was both 21st century and 80s, because the book is very, very 80s, like pretty much entirely 80s, whereas...
yeah, like war games and
Yeah,
everything like that.
whereas with this, it's you can bring in Overwatch or Borderlands or Halo, and you can have that included. But you can then still throw in some 80s stuff like Chucky and Gundam.
What really hurt, one of the things about this film and this trailer, it came on when I was watching some with a friend, and they're going to remain nameless. Zach will know who it is. And then I'm like, I can't wait to see Iron Giant on the big screen. And they were like, what about Tracer, Overwatch?
Oh, I want to
It's
punch
like-
them.
And it's like, yeah, Overwatch is good. It's a good game. But when you have the Iron Giant,
When you
Bruh.
have certain things that we've never seen on the big screen resurrected. The fact that Battletoads were in this film.
Yes, Battletoads.
We've not seen Battletoads in, I think, nearly a decade, and yet you scream about Tracer, something that you see every day and over a computer screen in the world. It's like, oh, it just drives me insane with certain people. This was by no means Spielberg's best film,
Oh, no.
but it does show his capability. He can still make a big adventure movie. I'm excited to see where he goes next, because I think we've had so many serious business movies, and then he tried to do an adventure movie with BFG,
Business.
and that was awful. And I've been loving the serious business movies. Like, I love Bridge of Spies. The Post was one of my favourite films last year. So then to see him come to this, the big adventure crazy star thing, it'll be interesting to see where he goes next. Like, if he does try something else, because I know he wants to do another Tintin.
Oh, Tintin was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I know he does have another indie scheduled, but it was in press for this film in an interview. He was like, oh yeah, I have another indie contracted. He clearly doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think he saw it as an end when they ended the original trilogy, and he doesn't want to do it
Mark my
anymore.
words, if that film comes out, it'll be a miracle. The
No, I
fact
think
that
it's definitely coming
No,
out,
I think-
but he doesn't want to do it.
I think another 2-year delay just says it all, pretty much. Like, the fact that he will be... I dread to even think how old he'll be when that comes out then. Not to be rude, but... Like, it's just... You've had your chance with it. Just move on. Try something different.
Also, referenced it last week, but Spielberg documentary, fantastic. Check it out.
Yeah, one of the best, I think, HBO documentaries they've ever made. Really gives you a sense of who he is as a person, just the magic of his film work. Ready Player One, though, definite recommend. It's just big, dumb popcorn
Yeah.
fun.
Like, if you've got a few mates over, or if you just want to see some really well crafted action,
Yeah.
Ready Player One, check it out.
There'll be something for everyone. Like, if it's a book reference, TV, or a game, or a movie, there'll be something for someone that they spot and love.
But even if it isn't a perfect film, narratively speaking.
Yeah.
Oh, also, at the end, when they reveal about Simon Pegg being the dude, I just wanted it to stay on that coin flip.
Yeah,
It was nice, it was subtle.
Didn't need
S-
some more of that.
even if it did go over some people's heads, then it wasn't essential to the story.
Yeah.
But then they spelt it out, and it's like, why can you just be
Yeah.
subtle? But
Something... Yeah, keep going.
no,
Something I also want to point out, like another character that I've neglected to talk about, is Ben Mendelsohn's Nolan Sorrento.
yeah,
He was okay in this film. In the book, they make him seem a hell of a lot cooler, like a lot more intimidating.
like Ben Mendelsohn did what he could.
He was
with
good.
what
yeah.
he was given. Like, his performance-wise, he was good, but they didn't give him that moment.
No.
Like, a lot of villains need that moment when they don't necessarily have as much on side. Like, what could have been interesting for this film is if he wasn't just a big corporate baddie, and he was actually like an interesting and complex villain.
Yeah.
Because, like, when he's talking to Wade about certain things, then Wade catches him out, and he's like, "Oh, you've got an earpiece in." It could have been interesting if he actually did care about it,
Yeah.
but he just went about it the wrong way.
Yeah, there's so much in the book about how they spend a lot of time like developing the mentality of you're meant to hate the Sixers because they want to take it. Imagine pretty much what they're doing with YouTube at the moment. How YouTube used to be this really, really great thing. How you could enjoy videos on it, make great content, made good money for it, but now it's just becoming the adpocalypse, demonetization. It's becoming less and less of a great place to like for many content creators to make stuff. That's essentially what the idea of it is with like the Sixers. They want to turn the Oasis into like a corporate thing, and that's why you hate them. They did none of really that to establish it in the film, and they just kind of turned Sorrento and kind of just like oh yeah, F this guy. And then it's like even at the end when it's like he's in the prison car and they just say like, now Friday, and it's just like she punches him. It's just like such like a thing. I expected that from like an episode of Scooby-Doo. It just felt so kind of cheap.
Zach, I wish you luck on your way home. You have spoken illy about YouTube, and yes, it has its problems, but
I love YouTube. It will always be the biggest part of my life. I go on it more than anything any day. YouTube is more of a family to me than friends, or even actual family.
But I think you've spoken out about it publicly now, and the Google assassins will be on you.
They'll be on me.
It will be Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson from The Internship. They will be on your... You can never stop running now. You are Batman at the end of The Dark Knight. You can't stop running. You always will be looking over your back. Vince Vaughn's coming for you, man. I'm sorry.
Do you remember the How It Should Have Ended Bat Blood video?
Yeah.
Where he assembles his team to go up against the Justice League? It will be me. It will be Keanu Reeves. It will be Daniel Radcliffe.
Keanu Reeves is on everyone's list.
Next to me, it would just be ordinary Keanu Reeves. It won't be like...
Oh,
I'll have it be Bill and Ted. It won't even be Neo. we will take down Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. Google, come at me.
Come at me, broski.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, quick question before we get back to Ready Player One. In a fight, Neo versus John Wick, who wins?
Neo in a heartbeat. Because Neo can break...
It hurts to say, but...
Neo can break every rule of that fight. If it's in the Matrix, then
if it's in the real world.
If it's in the real world, then Neo goes down like a bitch. Because like, you haven't seen Matrix Revolutions. Like, there's a scene where he has to try and fight out of the Matrix, and he gets like his ass handed to him by a very small man. It's like, no. If it's in the Matrix, then Neo wins in a heartbeat. But real life is John Wick. Movie-wise as well, it's John Wick because they're better movies.
Back to Ready Player One. It felt like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Oh,
I was just in there in the theatre. I actually thought this is worth watching in 3D because I thought Spielberg, and I don't think it was essential 3D viewing, but it was nice.
It was nice,
especially for the action, because it was just a nice action film with a little bit of heart.
And I think nothing annoyed me really. Like a lot of it was member berries, but I was happy to see them. Like I remember I was in the theatre, like I was like, yay, it's that guy, or it's like, yay, people are showing up. The only thing like I was expecting them to throw in properties and I get annoyed with it. Like I know people are very annoyed about what they've done with the Iron Giant. I'm not. The only thing that even remotely annoyed me is when they changed the Overlook Hotel picture at the end where it's James Halliday at the bottom. That annoyed me for a brief minute, but otherwise it's for fun. It's what I'd probably do if I had the chance.
Yeah.
And they recreated that scene amazingly. It's probably my favourite sequence in the film, even though it's blasphemy. It is blasphemy. You don't touch the shiny. It's perfect. But none of them annoyed me. Although they were on the nose at points. Like, you didn't need to scream, it's fucking Chucky. Like, we know it's Chucky.
Like, show, don't tell.
Yeah.
And we've seen it. But it's something that this film, not the film itself, but my theatre-going experience for this did raise. Why are kids allowed in the theatre?
Yeah, like, this is not a good film for kids because, like, the second the Overwatch people have seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles turn up.
Like, not even just about the film. There were kids kicking the back of the seats that I was on, shouting, and then they were politely asked many times by many people, sorry, is it right if you could, we're trying to watch the film, sorry, please, can you, like, very polite about it, not, oi, shut the hell up. It was, sorry, please, can you, and then they were like, no. And then looked to the parent, and the parent was like, what can I do about it? Like,
yeah, I'm of the point there where I will ask politely if the parent is like, no, and what can I do about it? I then, the next time the child does something, I will yell at the child, like, you will be stopped. It's precisely like when I know I've got like a Pixar film or something to see, I try and see it without any kids around me because they're just going to ruin it. Sorry, kids. Little shout out as well. Brilliant characters, Daito and Sho. They're not really in the movie very much. They were a great part of the book. really good. There's some great moments, like when Olivia Cook tries to hug him, ninjas don't hug, and then when it's like he does transform into Gundam, really great sequences. They should have been in it more. Just my little grip there.
But again, don't come to this film for interesting character arcs and thought-provoking things you haven't seen before. Come to it for the action.
Yeah.
Come to it for the fun.
Come for it for dumb fun.
For Spielberg. And that's Ready Player One.
Yeah. I hope if they do something with it again, Ernest Cline's given a little bit more to do. He can write it a little bit more than Zach Penn can. But hey, great film, and like we say, it's out this week.
Our second review for this week is 2017-2018 release. I don't know.
It's 2018.
Had an early 2017. Yeah. Well, but fantastic, smaller British film that is being seen by a lot of people. There's a lot of internet buzz about it, and that is Ghost Stories with Martin Freeman. He's the biggest name in it, but it also has the dude from Black Mirror,
Alex
End of
Lawther.
the Fucking World, and also has one of my dad's favourite comedians in it.
I think it's James Nyman.
So it's partly written and directed by Andy Nyman.
Oh, Andy. Oh, damn it.
Obviously stars Martin Freeman, Alex Lawther, and then Paul Whitehouse, who actually shows that he can do more than comedy.
Oh, definitely. He's very good.
Not only does the obviously funny bits well, he does the light-hearted bits well, but
He does the fear.
he does fear.
He makes you
really
scared as he
well.
is scared.
And he also does casual really well. Like that's something that I've found in performing in not only drama but short films and that. You can do the big emotional moments. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to feel and channel. But it's the small casual moments that's when you're not given a lot to do. And if you can still own it and make it work, then that shows a great performer. And Paul Whitehouse did fantastically here.
Everyone was unquestionably brilliant. Even if they were in a smaller sequence, every performer in this, I think, gave... You could argue who their best performance is, particularly from Alex Lawther. That's my favourite performance from him now. I think that's the fear that and the tension that he made me feel. Like that scene where he's just like, I can still hear you outside. And he opens the door. He's like, just points into that darkness. He made me terrified, and that's now my... It was just all out fear, and it scared the crap out of me.
Personally, Shut Up and Dance, Black Mirror episode he was in, he can never top that.
Close number two.
Yeah, but he's fantastic here. And the story is... So this film is based off of the stage production of it,
that's
theatre.
That's a little point I want to make. Never as a film made me want to go and see a stage play more. I'm desperate to see the stage play for this. If this is ever playing, we're going.
I would really be interested to see how some of it plays out on stage. Yeah. Like, it's not a direct adaptation, but it's the same writers who did the stage theatre production who then adapted it for this and directed it. And you can tell that they've been thinking about it for a while.
Yeah. Andy Nyman did both the play as the main character there and the film.
And he also studied philosophy at university.
Very much
and
shows.
You can tell.
Very much shows.
There's so many interesting questions that are brought up about things. But it's an anthology film where it tells essentially 4 stories, but 3 advertised stories where it has Paul Whitehouse and everyone has their own self-contained story. And while they have been criticised for being a bit cliche, I think it all sort of works when it's wrapped up at the end.
I feel the individual stories themselves are the least cliche bit. I think each one is done extremely well. Like, they're crafted.
I think the individual stories themselves aren't cliche, but some of the things that they did...
Like some of the elements that you can expect, it's just the way that they're shown, like the way that they're developed works. Like, I think the ending's the cliche bit, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, we'll get into that.
On first watching, I completely agree with you, but on second watching, I sort of partly changed my mind. Yeah. But it tells 4 stories, one that weaves them all together. It's a lot like, to relate it to something, it's a lot like Black Mirror's White Christmas or Black Museum, how it then all wraps up at the end, but this one more directly.
Yeah, definitely. This has the big implications for the character at the end.
Also, we'll just go full spoilers.
We're going to go full spoilers. I think let's discuss the stories themselves though first. Which is your favourite of the three stories? Because we'll say favourites, and then I think we'll go through each one and say what we loved. But
I'm not sure for favourite. I'd say I like all of them individually for different reasons. Like Black Mirror one, I like that because it was the funniest one.
Yeah.
Like when he was like, fucking O2.
Yeah.
But then it's suddenly like that, how it then suddenly twists and changes when that thing gets in the car, and then it's like, oh God, and petrified to look.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I preferred the first one.
My favourite is the first one as well. I think it's the scariest one in my opinion is the second one. That had me shitting myself. I was really scared of that. Not even the thing with the goat. Like, it's just when it was in the house.
Yeah.
Like, there's that one amazing shot that still haunts me when he walks into the house. He looks in the kitchen, and the two parents have got his back to him.
Yeah, and they just stood there
That
completely
scared the crap out of me. Like, and then even when he looks up in the attic and it's like there's someone running, it's what they did with light in this thing, and because you never see their faces. And I don't know when you understand why come the ending, but the fact that you never see them, and then what the lighting does to make that house look so dark and terrifying, it just worked. But the first one is my favourite by far because I think it's got the strongest character work. You really feel for that guy, like. When he does the pre-meeting interviews with them, it's like he chats with them. You get the longest sequence of that guy. It's like he has to convince him to like tell him. It's like he has to pay him, and then you get so much of what that character is, and then you get the complete transition to when he goes back. It's like he's just that everyday guy, and I found him so relatable.
I think it contrasts with like Martin Freeman's bit, for example, because Paul Whitehouse's bit they showed and didn't tell. Like while they told a lot, it was like when he had to put the money on the table. Whereas with Martin Freeman, he opened up about it straight away, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, my wife, this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
And
He was just too willing.
no, not necessarily too willing, because that was his character. But I mean, like in what he was saying, he was like, "Yep, I have a wife, I have a kid, and everything like that." Whereas they sort of told it a bit more,
Yeah, I'll give you that.
indirectly.
I think what works as well with all three, it's like we talked about this with many horror films that we've seen. It's like it's that moment. All three of those stories have got that moment at least once or twice. Like there are very, very scary moments. Like particularly for me in the first one, where it's like he's shining a torch at that bed, and there's clearly someone under it, under the covers, and he gets towards it. Scene where he walks into the room with the mannequins. That's like, oh no, it's going to be there. It's going to be there. It's very niche horror, but they make it to such an elevated level that it's just so prestigious. It makes you scared and it makes you engaged. Like you want to look away, but you can't.
I think one of the things that works about this being the anthology that it is that it can focus on having certain scares and telling certain stories and narratives in the individual tales, but then they don't overstay their welcome.
No, definitely not.
Because if you were to make a full feature film of all of these stories, like, and make it 3 films, then it wouldn't be good.
No.
Like, it would feel too overblown, whereas they're tight and they're compact. And, like, the film's only an hour and a half long.
Yeah, it's a very short film.
Yet it still manages to pack so much into it, not even, like, with what it overtly shows, but subtext. And, like, the pub that they go into at the start's called Number 10.
Yeah,
the
something
10th
like that.
number.
Yeah.
And I first viewing, I obviously had no clue what the context of it was, but I thought that's an odd name for a pub.
Like...
But then it all works.
And you say as well, like, about how, like, well done it is, like, how it's nicely packed in. What I like about it is it doesn't give you a moment to breathe. Like, every single... You go into each of these stories, like, you get the pre-beginning bit, it's like he has to meet the person, then he does the story. You never get an after bit with the story. You never get this, like, oh, yeah, I clearly don't believe you. Like, you just go straight into the next sequence, and it's already drawing up the tension. Like, he's scared himself, and it never gives you a moment just to stop and think, like you're just kind of, like, consistently on the edge, because it just keeps on going, getting scarier. The
closest it comes to talking about it afterwards is when he's talking to the priest, but then that still keeps it going.
Yeah, exactly.
And it still keeps it moving.
It's still... If it's not adding to the fear, it's then adding to the character. Like, I think that was something that was greatly done in this film. Like, the main character was someone that you don't really get the full layers of until the end, but you get enough to have built up an opinion of this bloke, like who he is throughout the beginning sequences and then in between each case.
Also, this film is like a lot of horror films aren't particularly scary. This film, there are some petrifying moments.
Yeah, this made me sleep with the lights on.
And it highlights what an arsehole I am, because when I first pitched it to a group of mates to go see it at the cinema,
You're a dick.
they were like, "Oh, I haven't heard anything about it. What's it about?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a sequel to Adam Sandler's Bedtime Stories." They're like, "Oh, really? Oh, I love that film." And I 100% don't think they believed me, but the fact that they just went in with that expectation. But yeah, something that I only noticed on the second watching was the fact that there's only one female character in the film for 5 seconds, and that's the mother standing still. I don't think
there is another female character. It's
the
banshee at the end.
Yeah,
that kind of counts a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's no. It's a very small net cast, and I think they work miracles with that small cast.
I'm not criticising it for not having any female. If it was a big ensemble with like hundreds and hundreds of people,
then you get it.
Then I'd be like, you could have done with some women in there.
And this isn't a film that needs it though. This is like every character's in it is there for a reason, as the ending says. Like, that's interesting to say that. Like you went with people I of course didn't. I'd only seen this recently. You saw it a while back. What were kind of like the scariest moments that like not just you felt were the most scary, but kind of like got the bigger reactions from the people? Like I can imagine the goat got quite a bit.
Oh yeah. It's weird because I'm more into nuanced and niche horror without trying to sound pretentious.
No, okay, yeah.
But in the moments where my mates were completely petrified, like, and it was leading up to a big jump scare or something, I was like, okay, seen this before in a few other things, but it's still good. It's still creepy. But then moments I was like, oh my god, what is happening? And they were like, yeah. So it's just different opinions, but something that everyone was unanimously shitting themselves on was when it got into the car.
That was beyond terrifying. Have you seen like what a picture of that thing looks like with the full body?
No.
Go and Google.
Oh wait, yeah.
Go and Google Goat Devil Man. It's terrifying.
Because again,
it's so scary.
Again, how much of an arsehole I am. That night, everyone was sort of in the group chat and it was like, "Everyone all right?" Just sort of feeling a bit creepy after that film. And then, just as everyone was saying goodnight, I just put in a picture of that, like, "Night, everyone."
I don't know why people like you. I really don't know why people like you. Why have you got friends, my friend? Like, yeah, it kind of says it again. Like, I watched this with my dad, and he agreed wholeheartedly. Like, if it wasn't the scene with the goat, it was the scene with the little girl. Like, it was those moments.
Yeah.
But for me, it's, as I said before, it was some of the quieter moments, like when he first enters Mr. Rifkin's house, and it's like everyone's really quiet, and it's the lights, and it's dark. Just those little subtle moments, and I think that's why this film will succeed, because there is the subtle horror fare that which will like sort of scare everyone and make them think like, oh dear, this is really going somewhere. But then there are those kind of those generic pieces that will keep the modern like moviegoer just satiated and will keep them happy. I think we might want to go into the ending though.
Hang on. I have a few things to say.
He's got more. He's got more. Like, we can go on about this film forever.
I know in a lot of film reviews they're always like, oh, the score was good, but in this one, the score was fantastic.
Yeah, this was amazing.
It did almost feel like a theatrical score, so I'm not sure if it was the same one from the theatre production. I doubt it, or if it was slightly adapted. But it sounds so classical and so orchestral, but it almost brings up another thing that I wanted to say about the film is, if you just showed it to someone and they had no clue about it, and you were like, what year was this from? I think there's a struggle because there are so many contemporary elements, like with a few jump scares and that, but then there are so many classical bits. It just feels so
like contained in an era that we no longer have.
Yeah, like it's sort of paid homage with certain bits in like each of the stories, and there's something for everyone in this, because watching it with my dad this morning on the rewatch, you could see at some moments he was like, okay, that's the modern horror, that is a bit cliche, that is a bit eye-rolly, but that's just his personal taste. But then at the end, when it all wrapped up,
it's like
he enjoyed it. But on my hang on, I wrote a few notes.
He
while
wrote. He
watching.
He was quite good with this. I'm just going from memory. I've only seen it once, unfortunately. I hope to see it again soon.
Yeah, I saw it once in theatres February.
No, it wasn't that. It was March past that. It was around May time because I remembered you'd been to see it, and I was like, "Oh damn," because we were seeing our dogs that week.
Yeah, it was around that time. But then I've been thinking over it in my head, but then when we said we'll discuss it on the podcast, because I've been dying to talk about it for ages.
Yeah, this is great.
Then I had the rewatch this morning. The slow-moving camera for a lot of this and the slower-paced editing really amps up and adds to the tension when it then goes into handheld. And while that's in a lot of films, it then contrasts with at the very end, well, not the very end, but when it's showing what happened with the 10th number and putting that boy in that sewer bit.
Yeah.
And then it then lingers on that one shot of that boy having that fit.
Oh, that's horrible.
And it forces you to watch it and confront it with what happened. And that contrasts with a lot of things, because then when it comes up to the climactic bit, it then amps up and it cuts fast after having all this slow build-up and tension. And while they play with that in the self-contained anthology bits, this bit, it's like, no, you will watch this.
Yeah, that's what I like so much about it, and that this film is, because of its editing, in my mind, very comparable to Hereditary, because it has so many slow-paced moments, but also what it's got in great amounts that work really well is lingering shots. Like, it just lingers on, like, absolutely nothing of importance. It's a hallway. Like, it's got nothing scary, but just the fact that it lingers on it, the tension is just so built up, and it really hits you. Like, I was on the edge of my seat throughout this entire film, and the fact that it just, like, lingers on these little moments is just like, fuck, what is this building towards? And then even when it is something like you also see with each of the little anthology stories, whenever he's doing the interviews, whenever it's in reality or, like, not in the dream, or, like, the flashbacks that they're talking about, it's a very, like, kind of enclosed set. It's in the pub, it's in the bedroom, it's in the caravan. But then when it gets to the horror sequences, they're in such big sets. Like, the production, it, like, really goes quite far and above. Like, it's in the abandoned factory, it's in the big mansion, it's in the whatchamacallit, like, the
Zach just shit himself.
I shit myself on the dog. Yeah, like, it's in the woods with the goat man.
I'll sort the dog out.
Scared me.
Sorry, someone arrived at the door, and so the dogs got a bit excited.
I mean, like I was saying, like, how it's in the big open spaces, but then when you have the final story about the boy where he dies in the cave, I like how it kind of juxtaposes that, because it tells you about, like, how those aren't really important to the story, like how it places him in that small confined setting. It really draws in, like, just the horror of what's happening to the boy, and then your brain has been trained to, like, all right, we're in a safe point at this moment. It's kind of in that little that strange space. But then when he even does the tearing down of the wall, it's, like, completely shattering your mind's perception of, like, what is safe for, as an audience member, to expect. And it kind of flips on your head, like, oh god, I thought we were okay at this moment. This is a moment to catch my breath. It's like, oh no, it's throwing on its head. I
love the little moment where he turns and he's like, can we cut? And then he's like, who are you talking to? But I was so engrossed in this film, especially in the cinema, where when it then cut to just as they're about to tear it down, I thought, oh, they've now gone to a set. There's been a slight change in lighting. But I had no clue what was coming.
Yeah.
Although something that I am very proud of.
Oh, yeah, he's been patting himself on the back about this all day.
In my first viewing, as soon as he went into the caravan, I didn't get it when he was young in the flashbacks, but when he then saw Martin Freeman and all the makeup, I turned to my mate and I was like, is that Martin Freeman? And they were like, no. Then at the end I was just like,
I grant you, I didn't think
you
it
very
was.
much.
I didn't know it was Martin Freeman, but you could instantly tell it was going to be like that was something they would use for a reveal later, because the makeup is awful. In the context of the film itself, you understand why it's so awful, because it doesn't have to look that good to a character, because he's, as we'll say. But
I found that with a lot of things, like especially in the anthology bits, a lot of it worked. Like a lot of what would be criticisms of it being either slightly cliche or something like that,
or something not necessarily looking particularly great or realistic, the ending then resolves that.
Yeah,
Like, even though the ending isn't perfect, and I do have my quarrels with it, it does sort of sort out a few points with it. And it's like, it explains it because, that was in his head. That was in his head. He's clearly done something, and then it was in his head.
The ending to me feels really Shyamalan. Really kind of... It is a great idea, but in my opinion, it is handled quite poorly.
In the theatre, it made me think in my head of a Year 8 English lesson. It was creative writing. And at the end, just put, and then they woke up.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing that has become very...
Chris Stuckman said about this in his review of it. He was like going like, I can't wait to see where this goes. I cannot wait. And then he just said, oh yeah, this is of course where it goes. And that's kind of the trend with this. It's like, you're not disappointed by it because it's a clever twist, but it's like, it's and just...
the lead up to it's really good.
Yeah, the lead up, the tension, because you are like as equally as he is, like, what the fuck's going on? The rules in my head have been broken. But then with the final reveal, it is too quick. It is far too quick. They give away every single main plot point of the film in one little scene, all the little Easter eggs.
I think it should have at least been twice the length, because it's not like it was a particularly long film where they needed to cut it for time. Like, if it was a 3 hour,
to be longer.
If it was like a 3 hour film, then I'd have been like, come on. But I did like how they sort of sprinkled it out, like small things, like there are the more overt things, like having the shot of the window, but like all throughout the film. But then there's like the pub name and everything like that. It's more subtle things.
Yeah, like how you get the remnants of what he's seeing in that hospital bed appear in the film repeatedly is really clever, and you don't pick it up until the end of the film. That's why I think it kind of works in a Get Out type way, because it'll be interesting to go back when I see it again and kind of note out the little points. Like, that was there, like that was really clever. They kind of pointed that out. But then when it comes to the final reveal, it just feels so just quick, and it's just like, oh, here it is. Aren't we clever?
Although this year, Marvel have claimed that we've had the biggest crossover event in history, and I'd like to debunk this by saying the end of this film is the biggest crossover event in history, because all three people come in and then it all wraps up and it's like, wow, everyone's here, then Miles here, and it's just like all little things come together,
and that's joyous to you, but that's annoying to me, because this is the moment where you should receive the realization of what this film was about. That's what I loved about certain horror films this year, where it was like you instantly got where it's like, yeah, that was what this film was trying to say. With this film, because it became so rushed, it was like you were kind of like, oh, it was just a dream, like, because they're literally forcing it down your throat, like, oh, this is like it's a dream, like he's not a dream, like it's his hallucinations while he's in his coma, he's just building a reality. Because you're so focused on that, because they are throwing it kind of in your face. Don't get me wrong, it's a brilliant idea. They're doing it well, but it just feels very quick. You then don't, until you've come out of it, the theatre or like whatever, start to think to yourself, oh yeah, that was a really great story about how personal demons eventually come to a point where it's our surroundings that become our horrors, no longer just our personal demons. Because they can affect us that much to a level where we are then scared of everything. And you don't get that, because it's just so, here's the twist, aren't we clever?
It reminded me a lot, the ending of the How I Met Your Mother finale, of how everything happened so quickly and so rushed, and even though it's arguably the better ending for the characters and for the story, it happened so quickly, we're just like, oh, did that happen? What's going on?
It's fantastic ideas, they've just done it like, right, be okay with it like that.
Yeah.
Get on with it. It's like the fact that he instantly like just goes into the he's like, oh, as my old professor used to say, Charlie Cameron, instantly name drops him so that the audience can be like, I think if they'd had more time, they could have done one or two sequences with maybe even each of the three characters, and they could like to kind of parallel the three stories, and they could have thrown in the little subtle references. Like maybe it's on a piece of paper on the wall, because it is very subtle. It's not it's very obvious in the dream, like in the flashbacks within the three stories, like the little details. But then if you did the when it's in the real world with each of these three characters, you could put in the little things in the background, but you don't even need to draw attention to them.
Yeah.
It can be for the audience to see it. The characters don't need to point it out. Whereas in each three of them, they all have their moments where it's like they deliberately bring something out of their story into the real world. Like, he's answering this phone all the time, he's having problems with his parents, he's being racist about the people getting a Chinese. It's like, it's just so... Even the doll is in the room.
Yeah.
It's just very on the nose. It's a great twist. I just feel the whole of the film has been so well put together up until that moment that you kind of think, oh god, it's great, but it could have been up here.
And I feel like one of the reasons why I think they may have done it quite quickly is because some people like it, some people don't, and I think they realised that, and so they were like,
Yeah.
we have this small bit here, so it concludes our little story, but it's only so small that if you don't like it, you don't have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of comes into it as well because the whole film has been so scary. You have been very scared, particularly that final sequence that just precludes the film, comes before it, where it's like he's pushing him onto the bed, put the finger in his mouth. It's horrifying. To then do something that's completely set in the normal world and it is exposition, you kind of think, yeah, let's get this over with quickly so that people are kind of just focused on the high of how scared they were when they saw it.
Although it's odd because the first time I saw it, I saw the ending and I thought, that's cliche. I think that sort of ruined my experience of the film. But on the rewatch, where I wasn't as into the tension in certain scenes because I'd seen it before, and while it still drew me in, and I was more aware of certain things being fairly cliche, it then made the ending, I felt it then wrapped it up more and it worked more on a rewatch rather than on the first watch. It was sort of like, oh, really? Whereas second time round, it was, whole way through being like, yep, and then it all wrapping up at the end nicely. But I'm not sure. Maybe with the third watch, I'll like it even more. I'll dislike it.
Yeah.
But I think then I'll finally conclude if I like it or I dislike
I can't wait for my second rewatch of this film, but I think one viewing alone, it's high up there for me. It's probably one of my favourite films I've seen this year. It's probably number 2, and it's an instant recommend from me. Horror fans will adore this, and I think moviegoers themselves, it'll be one of those films this year, because there have been some very pretentious, not to call Hereditary pretentious, but that is
It's
for
not for
that's
everyone.
for a very certain crowd.
It's a
This
niche,
is a
yeah.
universal horror film. Anyone
Although
can
it's only
enjoy
got
this.
6.6 on IMDb.
That's shocking to me how that's got
And
this.
I looked on Rotten Tomatoes, and obviously Rotten Tomatoes is like the
The
most...
be all and end all, but
Yeah, but it is 82% by critics, which, but it has 64 by audiences. And I'm not sure if... It's not even like the marketing was misleading as such. I'm not sure. I didn't watch any trailers. I went in completely blind. But I'd say that it deserves more than 64. I'd say 82 is definitely...
yeah, I think that's just down to limited release. I don't think this. I don't
Yeah.
think nearly enough people saw this, so I don't think enough of the audience had a chance to kind of give it an outcry. I think when this comes out on DVD, or if they put it on Netflix, then
Oh, yeah.
it's gonna blow up. But I think until it gets that bigger crowd, it's not gonna get as much love.
But something that I did love about this film, he wasn't guilty because he did something. He wasn't guilty because he forced that boy in there to count the numbers. He was guilty because he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And he was a bystander. And he's guilty about what he can no longer do. And that sense has weighed him down all his life.
And then that's what kind of builds the entire plot of the film. The fact that he didn't do anything then has created a personal trauma for his life, but the fact that he now cannot do anything because he physically can't, it's creating the personal horror of his surroundings, and then that's what builds the story itself. And I think that's just such a clever way to build those parallels. It's
And-
clear that he did major in philosophy.
And in his mind, he visited his dad, old, and he was all senile and he didn't talk and he was quiet. And he's become what he was scared of
Yeah.
because he now cannot do anything about it.
It's the kind of horror film I want to write, the kind of horror film I'd love to just make, where you can do so many little unique things in it and yet still have it come together into this really kind of awe-defining moment that just kind of, although isn't executed perfectly, definitely has you thinking about it for quite a while afterwards, even if you're thinking about how, oh, that really worked, how it all pieced together, or you're thinking about, fuck, that scared the crap out of me. And I think it's a film that will stay with people.
But this film does have fucking fantastic point of view shots.
Ooh,
Like, it's not even...
some of the best I've seen.
It's not even obvious, like, pointing out, like, oh, this is in the perspective of them, like it is in some. It just works even better for the tension and putting the viewer in that situation.
Yeah.
But highly recommended. If you haven't seen it, why were you listening to all of this? Just go out, watch it again.
Not surprised if this will be out within the month or so. This amazing film. Get your hands on it if possible. So we now move into quickfire question of the week. I'm sad to report that I lost. Jake is 1 point ahead.
90% to 10% vote. Like, 9 out of 10. I'm pretty chuffed for that. I mean, even if Guardians won, I wouldn't have been sad.
I'm not complaining either. That's what I would have picked, probably, if I saw the poll online. I think it's a great idea. We thank you for everyone that did vote. Hopefully they do it again on this one. We've recently received footage, well, not footage as such, we have received some footage from Comic-Con of the new Godzilla film. Now, originally I was going to go into a question about kaiju, but I thought I won't be unkind to Jake, as I don't know if his kaiju knowledge is.
Pacific Rim, and that's about it.
Okay, then, so I came up with a better one. Like, we had the amazing Millie Bobby Brown footage, which was brilliant, but I want to focus on an image and the title of the film. The image of Godzilla letting out his atomic breath into the sky, and then the fact that this film is called King of Monsters. We are clearly going to get some awe-astounding fights in this film. This is going to be a film that I think lives up to the promise of what the original was. You're going to get the big fight moments. You're going to be absolutely awestruck by what when they combat with each other. So that got me thinking about kind of cinema as a whole, and it got me my question. Now, who is Hollywood's greatest fighter? Now, this can be in the element of they appear in a lot of films and they do a lot of fighting. Like, this can be hand-to-hand combat. This can be, like, with, like, weapon-based items like swords, guns, stuff like that. And my option is Keanu Reeves. I'm going
What, as in actor rather than character?
As in actor. Because he has just got so many capabilities. Like, when you look at the original Matrix films, the stuff that he did under personal injury, like the fact that he had work done on his back and he was able to pull off all that stuff, the fact that when you watch a film like 47 Ronin, so he can completely shake it up, not only with his kung fu and clear martial arts skills, he has got incredible sword play, this man. The fact that he can wield a sword like that is truly impressive. But then when you watch the John Wick trilogy, as it will eventually be coming by the end of next year, you see that this man is, I think he's 53, isn't he? And he is kicking more ass than I think most young actors in their 30s. He is so capable. And then there's also the fact that with this guy, with a lot of action films, I recently saw this with Taken, it was on the other night, they're edited and cut to fuck. Like, they have to
like
do
him jumping over that fence.
Yeah, they have to do about like 25 different cuts just to make him look good. With Keanu Reeves, you can just let the camera roll and he will fight, because he will remember every move, he will be good with his choreography, and he will make it look good. He looks astounding when he fights. He's capable of so many different things. And so for that reason, Hollywood's greatest fighter, in my opinion, is Keanu Reeves.
That's a very good question, and
Well, I
very
just
good
thought
answer.
that's quite a general question I liked about last week's, about how we could make that quite open, try and keep that theme running. Plus the fact, just kind of also drawing some hype up for Godzilla, which I'm very excited for.
In my head, I was going through a lot of action stars like Justin Lin, Tom Cruise, but then I realised Tom Cruise just runs away from it. But one thing in my head, a name that I couldn't get out, and it's not an overt fighter that you'd get in the sense of physical.
Okay.
Hang on. The answer's just changed in my head. I just thought of someone why didn't I think of them before? What I was going to say, which I think would be very, very difficult to make a case for, I was going to say Frances McDormand in how...
Dude, this is going to be... It's a physical fight. This isn't a fight of the mind or a fight of the performance or the emotions.
Okay.
This is a physical fight, my
Physical
friend.
fight.
This is an altercation of the fists. Because that's what Godzilla will be.
Then who better than Jackie Chan himself?
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Not only is he a master of comedy, he has mastered Western as well as Eastern films. He is a household name, and he does these long, extensive shoots and action scenes in his films. And he's also proven with The Foreigner, like while the film had its problems, he's also proven that he can do the emotional stuff. He can do other parts of the performance. He's similar with Tom Cruise in the sense that he's the star power behind these films, and then he works with directors and the script to come in, and then he's like, right, I want to do this scene this way. And Jackie Chan does this in a number of fantastic films. And I remember as a kid watching his animated series. I thought that was brilliant.
Jackie Chan, The Adventures.
But what he does in his action scenes is he pulls the camera back, and he doesn't work on guns or fast editing, or he pulls the camera back and he just goes on choreography. He goes on what he knows, martial arts, and he does it phenomenally. And he's also venturing into music. Like, he recently released his latest track, and
he fights to it, does he?
and I can just picture a training montage to it. But Jackie Chan is a classic for a reason. He is a household name that people look up and aspire to be. He is like Bruce Lee. He fights physically. And while I love Keanu Reeves, and it hurts for me to have to put someone up against him, if the two blokes would just put in a room, blank room, or even say the dojo from the first Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Say they were put in there without any guns, I think Jackie Chan might be on for a winner.
Yeah,
but
I think
if there was a gun, it would be like the scene in Indiana Jones where Jackie Chan does this fancy stuff and then Keanu Reeves just shoots
guns him down. Just curious, what's your favourite Jackie Chan kind of like action film? I love Rush Hour. Rush Hour is just perfect for me.
I love how cheesy it is.
That's just why I love it.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
Even if it is Brett Ratner.
I don't care. It's he just sins years later. Like, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I'll give my little rebuttal. I think Keanu Reeves works a hell of a lot better in the sense that he doesn't need anything to be like fucking lethal. Jackie Chan like is with his fight style very much like kind of like constrained to the flips and the kicks and the let's use the environment with me. Like, he's often like pushing people into things, he's throwing things at people. Yeah, he's like using the other people's bodies. John Wick is like the John Wick movies. It's just like, I will punch you to death. I will do it with my bare hands. And as well, particularly, I know Jackie Chan does it. Like, when you watch the movie 47 Ronin, it's an awful film, but he does incredible sword work in that film. Like, he is able to transfer skills across to that. And yet, Jackie Chan kind of like, he'll do sequences with like guns or swords, whereas I think Keanu Reeves proves he can make both a fight film, like when you watch Speed, he can make it about the guns and like that. But then he can also do like his like full-on martial arts films. So that's for me personally, Keanu Reeves. Not just mention just the fact like, yeah, Jackie Chan's getting older, so is Keanu Reeves. They are both physically fucking like, they are still lethal like in their older ages, and that's like, damn.
But yeah, I again feel like it could be argued that martial arts is an art form.
Yeah, very much.
And Jackie Chan has certainly mastered it.
Without doubt. I think that would be a hell of a movie to see them go at it. Have you ever seen the movie where Jet Li and Jackie Chan go up against each other? That's a hell of a fight scene. It's an awful, awful film, but you just pay for it because you want to see that.
But that was a quick fire question. We'll put the poll up on Twitter.
Yep.
And then let's get into the bargain bin.
Yeah, my bargain bin for this week is a longer one. I had a serious spending spree. Like, I've gone kind of wild these last few weeks. Of course, mentioned game night in the last video, but alongside that week, I was able to pick up The Exorcist, I was able to pick up Signs, Apocalypse Now, all really cheap. Happy with those. Oh yeah, particularly I had my trip to Plymouth yesterday. I was able to get a copy of Emile and the Dying Girl, one of my favourite kind of teen comedy romances of all time. Love that because it's Olivia Cook as well. And
a Sockwork orange.
Yep, Olivia Cook is Bay in heart and life. Just love. Able to get Serious Man, probably my new favourite Coen Brothers film. It's beyond hilarious and it's the best Michael Stuhlbarg performance, even better than Call Me By Your Name.
Blasphemy.
You'll see it and you'll agree. Also, is able to pick up the original Evil Dead trilogy. So happy with those because I love them so much. Army of Darkness is my favourite. And I know that's a controversial opinion, but hey. Also, I was able to get my hands on Coherence, my recommendation from last week. Absolutely love this little science fiction film. And I was able to get, because I'm on a Lynn Ramsey high right now, particularly after You Were Never Really Here, I was able to get a steelbook of We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Nice.
So thrilled with that. It was a choice between We Need to Talk About Kevin or T2 in a steelbook, and I was like, needs to be We Need to Talk About Kevin, because I haven't seen that as much as I'd like, and it's an absolutely fantastic film. I mean, there was also as well, it was really annoying, there was a Blade Runner 2049 steelbook. Beautiful, like, original artwork, completely silver, really nice, and they wanted 35 quid for it, and I was like, I can't justify this. It's beautiful, but
Your wallet just goes, I don't feel so good. It turns to dust.
disappears. But yeah, that's kind of been my bargain bin for the week. I've been happy with this haul.
I think the best Stuhlbarg performance is definitely in Doctor Strange. The excitement he felt when he was at that vending machine,
Yep.
unrivaled in any other cinematic experience.
Yeah, really give a Serious Man a try, man. You'll love it.
But my bargain bin, for the listeners, I went up to Edinburgh on holiday this week.
It's kind of why this episode's a little bit later, but we're here.
Yeah. And I got some good deals. There was a Forbidden Planet up in Edinburgh,
Hey.
so I was very happy.
Good boy.
Spent almost too long finding what I wanted to get in there, but I got. Hang on, just get it and look at it because it's beautiful. Oh shit!
Oh man, I didn't know we were doing Funkos. I'll go into mine in a minute.
I got a beautiful Deckard Blade Runner Funko Pop. While it doesn't particularly look like him, it has the gun, so I'm happy about that.
I think the face captures it. The face looks good.
Yeah, it has the sad old eyes,
sad.
so it gets Harrison Ford. But I'm looking on the back with all the Funkos that they're doing for 2049, and I can't help but be a little bit
Yeah, can't let
disappointed.
down by some of them,
Like Officer K, fantastic character, Ryan Gosling, the goose himself. He looks like generic man number 3, and so do a lot of these. And so I had to pick out Deckard, and there's a replicant joke in here somewhere of a Funko being a replicant of a replicant or whatever. And I nearly picked up Wallace because that's the most one that looks iconic to the film. But then I realised I don't want Jared Leto in my home.
yeah. He's in mine.
Because I imagine I'll just have the Funko sitting there. I'd see a little line in the head. I'd be like, what's that? It'd be like a Slytherin. It would open up the head. Then there'd be a used condom or some shit like that in it. And I'm like, I'm not ready for Jared Leto to be in my home.
He'd open up his head and it'd say
Damaged.
damaged.
He would wipe off the makeup, and instead of it being makeup saying damaged, like the makeup would be hiding it being damaged. But yeah, that was my little Funko that I got from Forbidden Planet. And also, I'll just get it so I don't get any of the names wrong. I managed to pick up a few comics and graphic novels, 2 of which were from Forbidden Planet. One of them, Midnight of the Soul, from what I've heard, very James Bondy, that sort of thing, and it looks cool. It has a really interesting art style that I can't wait to get into. The next comic will be in my WhatsApp attaining, so I'll leave that till last. But my final one is a signed copy. I didn't get this from Forbidden Planet. I got this from a local comic shop, Deadhead Comics. They're really good. They had their own ones in there, and they seem really nice blokes. So if you're in Edinburgh, check out Deadhead Comics.
Right.
I got a signed copy of Bust. This is one that was funded by Kickstarter.
That's good.
Yeah, its art style is...
Oh, I like that art style. That is pretty.
It's black and white.
Oh, that's very me.
And I'm
liking
really
that.
glad that I picked it up. And the world that it builds and story it tells is really interesting. Glad I picked that one up. But also in the marketplace,
These make me cry. They are so beautiful.
I got 3 posters printed on wood, 3 beautiful posters, one for The Big Lebowski, one for E.T., and one for The Terminator. While these aren't necessarily my favourite films of all time, I really enjoy all of them, and I can't wait to put these up in my dorm room and have them in the background of the set of my film reviews and discussion videos. But I put pictures of them up on my Twitter, and I could not be happier with them. It's not even like they were crazy expensive as well. They were really nice. Really, really glad I picked them.
The urge to take these and beat you with them and then run is so strong. I'm curious, did they have any like others? Was those like the free designs?
Loads.
What was like some of the others?
They had loads. They had like Fantastic Mr. Fox ones. I nearly picked that up, but it was like an odd poster. It wasn't like the regular one.
Yeah.
But they had absolutely loads, and they weren't all film posters. They had things like the generic sayings, and they also had like a load of Star Wars ones. But I had to, because it was a 3-pack deal, I had to control myself. I was like, I have enough Star Wars, so I need to control myself and pick up something else. And I couldn't be happier that I picked these.
My urge to get to Edinburgh is now entirely strong. So I need these.
Edinburgh, the city itself, also really good. Check it out if you're going on
Don't just go for the
holiday
comics. Go for the culture, the people there. Sure, it's a lovely place.
But I would go into my bargain bin for my DVDs and Blu-rays, but again, my bedroom's still being decorated and they're all in boxes, and it's making me sadder and sadder to think about it. So at the moment, I'm just on Netflix and Now TV films. I see them in these transparent boxes, and I feel like I'm just...
It makes me think of the poor trapped dark elf in the Guardians of the Galaxy, the collector's room. He's just sat there. I'm an Easter egg, but no one cares. To add to mine, completely forgot about mine for the bargain bin. Literally got on the way up here The Incredibles, the first one again. Needed it after seeing the sequel. Was kind of on a high after that.
Traitor.
Needed the original, and then I was also very, very pleased to pick up a Mission Impossible box set, 1 to 5. Very pleased with these. I'll probably start watching these again tonight. Very pleased with that. All in prep for Fallout, which we will be doing hopefully soon.
Also, while I think on it, what would be fantastic for Blade Runner Funko, they've done larger Funkos in the past, like Giant Man, with Ant-Man, and they've done other things.
Xenomorph, Smaug.
Exactly.
Smaug, yeah.
How beautiful would it be for Blade Runner to have a big Joy?
It depends how you do it, but that would be pretty cool.
Just in my head, I thought, Funko would want a naked girl.
That's a purple naked woman of quite a size.
In my head, I didn't think about her being naked, but just give her some clothes, that'd be fine. But just like a big one of that.
That'd be cool, yeah. Kind of like a bootleg one.
Yeah. But what leads into what's appertaining is I got Solstice, a graphic novel, hardback, in Forbidden Planet, and everything I've heard about this is fantastic. I'll be reading it as soon as that goes. They had this one's in plastic at the minute, but the one they had up there in the shop, they did have an open one, and I flicked through it, and it looks beautiful. I can't wait to get into it. But film-wise, because I was travelling, I didn't really get much of a chance to watch many TV series. But I need to catch up with Westworld and Legion because they're going off Now TV soon.
You need to hurry up, son.
I need to get on that. But in terms of films, I've watched quite a few actually, because Netflix, beautiful people, you can download films on there. So I've watched like Some Sweet Virginia with John Bernthal, also another John Bernthal one that I was surprised he was in, Wind River.
Oh, thank you. Isn't that incredible?
That was fantastic.
We're going to go round and round on that after this show's done.
It's so moving and so effective in everything it does. And it is...
Question, have you seen Hell or High Water? Because comparing those two is incredible. They're like, once you've done Sicario, Hell, High Water and Wind River, it's the perfect Frontier trilogy. It's one of the best trilogies ever made.
Oh yeah, I love Sicario. Not sure about the sequel.
No, forget the sequel.
And that also leads into... last night was the first of many this summer where we properly set up the projector outside, and we only had a chance to watch 2 films. I say only, but it was Dad and I put on a modern one, he put on a classic one. Neither of us had seen, and then next time we do it, I'll put on a classic one and he'll put on a new one. It would just be that sort of thing. And the modern one that I put on was 2012's Dread.
Well done.
That was fucking phenomenal.
Was that the first time you'd seen that?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you hadn't seen that before.
It's such good action, and while the plot is
it doesn't
leaves
matter,
a bit to be desired, it is so much fun.
Isn't he amazing, Carl Urban?
With what he can do
He can
with
be
that.
the most enticing and engaging human being, and it's just his like lower chin.
It's the perfect 80s film that isn't an 80s film.
Yeah, that's
Like,
go. Do me a favour and seek out the Sylvester Stallone one.
Oh,
You betrayed the law.
The
You
law.
betrayed the law. The law. I'm so glad we've got that on the podcast now.
and then the classic one, which I wouldn't. Which at first I've been meaning to watch it for years, but first I thought, is this really Project One? But it looked phenomenal. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, well done.
Fantastic performances all round, brilliant film, and it just was surprisingly funnier than I ever thought it would be. And while I did know the ending because of talking about it with a mate ages ago, they're like, oh yeah, and then this happens at the end. But apart from that, I've been watching quite a few films off Netflix, like Limehouse Golem and stuff. So
Yeah, what did you think of that? I never saw it.
yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Like, not a complete recommendation. Like, I wouldn't say you need to run out and see it, but it is good. Bill Nye's fantastic as always. But
Yeah.
I finished Gotham by Gaslight. I started it on a plane a while ago. It was a bit awkward. But I finally finished it, and a lot better than A Killing Joke. And it's actually a lot of fun, and I like it because I feel like I have a video essay out of this. It takes liberties with the pre-established characters, not only by taking them out of their regular environment, but I won't say it, I won't spoil it, but it was an interesting watch, and the action scenes were very good.
Yeah, I'm like that. I've kind of, for my sort of WhatsApp attaining, I'm so proud of your picks, and we're going to go round and round on them in a moment. Off the camera. I wish you told me this before. We could have gone for ages. But yeah, I've been kind of spilling into some of the pieces I've been looking forward to seeing for a little while. Like, I'm getting through some more Coen Brothers films because that's just a crime I haven't seen more.
Yeah.
Saw Hail Caesar for the first time. I really, really enjoy that.
It's good, isn't it?
I'm really surprised Brolin didn't get an Oscar nomination for that. I think he's fantastic in it. As I've said, Serious Man, one of my new favourite films of all time. Finally got around to watching the Darjeeling Limited. Yeah. Love that, Wes Anderson.
Wes is just...
Lots of people don't like that one, but I found it
Really?
really good. Like, lots of people... My least favourite is Steve Zissou, and that... Darjeeling's above it. I think it's really great.
I enjoyed Steve because it's really stylish.
I love it, but it's just, it's kind of, it doesn't work in certain moments. Also got around to some kind of like, well, a little bit off the ball kind of a film here. I watched Billionaire Boys Club. I was kind of really excited to see this one because of the talent involved. Like, I thought Ansel Elgort, Taron Egerton, like, this is kind of a cool pairing. This is like one of the most mediocre things I've ever seen. It's trying really, really hard to be Wolf of Wall Street. There's one moment of levity, and forgive me for saying this, it's with Kevin Spacey. It's annoying that even he's not good in the film. I sought this one out because I thought the talent involved would make it great, no matter the controversy. It's really kind of poor. Like, they keep on talking about, oh, this is old money, this is new money. No, this is just really, really mediocre money. Don't go and see it. But my big investment now, like, I've managed to collect all of the Cowboy Bebop episodes, including the movie. Like, not physically, but I've managed to download them all. Like, I've got proper, beautiful quality. I will be watching them subbed, because sub purist. I've been waiting to watch Cowboy Bebop for years. I've had people yelling at me to see it, so that will hopefully be something that is started this weekend and I go through on, because it looks incredible from what I've seen of it. And also, particularly because he's going in with the comics, I'm going with the manga at the moment. I've recently picked up the Wolf Children. I had a chance to borrow this off a friend and read it. It was perfect. I managed to pick up the hard copy like last week. It's so lovely. The story's so emotional. It feels like it should be a Ghibli film. And it's perfect. I hope to eventually see the film soon after. And I'm also trying to get my hands on Angel's Egg, because I've heard great things about it, and I'm looking forward to eventually seeing it.
I also did watch A Stupid and Futile Gesture, or if it's a futile and stupid gesture, whichever way around. It's all right. Donald Gleason's in it, so I was happy.
Yeah. I heard nothing about it other than just mediocre.
Yeah, I wouldn't say run out and see it, but if you want something light-hearted, occasionally funny, and Donald Gleason, then yeah. But do you have anything else?
No, that's good for me. That's been my week.
But this leads me into my recommendation of the week.
Mm-hmm.
With this recommendation, I want to recommend what I am calling, and this is almost like a preparation. So, like, go away and do your homework, because I will be doing a video essay on this film. I consider this not a perfect film, but a perfect sequel. And so, to recommend this one, I need to recommend the first one. So, in a sense, I'm recommending Creep 2, but I'm also recommending the first one because you definitely have to see the first one for the second one to be as fantastic as it is. These are what I would call underrated films, because on Letterboxd, for example, they have about 3.5 stars, like so middle of the road. But I consider the first one to be 4 stars, the second one 4.5, maybe even 5, because the second one takes what you know from the first one while adding in new elements, while surprising you, and being a genuinely interesting and creepy film. And Mark Duplass, he's the creepiest dude you could ever see. I mean that in the best way possible. The extended shots and the extended monologues and the extended takes, brilliant. You actually get a sense and feel like you know what's going on with the character, and especially in the first one, you're like, okay, a few creepy things have happened, but not much is going on. And then it's like, at the end, my God, you just need to watch it. So I recommend Creep 1, Creep 2, but especially Creep 2, but don't watch Creep 2 without seeing the first.
Yeah, I've actually downloaded the first one per your recommendation a few weeks ago. It's on my watch list, and I believe one of these was on the Horror Channel the other night, and I was unable to watch it. I think it was Creep 2. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see these now.
But definitely watch the first one first.
We also just want to reiterate, as part of the recommendation of the week, we said at the beginning of the podcast, but Jon Schnepp's The Death of Superman Lives, really informative, really amazing documentary, great insight just to who he was as a person, and just his capability as a filmmaker. Really great, interesting pick. If you're a comic book fan, you'll enjoy it. If you're an old kind of superhero-y fan, you'll enjoy it. It was a great film, and he was a great guy. Just kind of give it a little bit of a shout out. It doesn't need a shout out, of course, but we thought, hey, we love that guy.
Yeah, it is a complete shame. Thoughts go out to the family.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to say that the Vimeo for Sour Popcorn is dead. There is an upload limit to storage, so we're only going on YouTube now.
Yeah.
And I'll also try and get the audio files up on iTunes at some point, but
YouTube is our home now. I can remember
Joey, we're home.
I can remember our virgin days when we started on Vimeo.
Rest in peace, Vimeo. I mean, I'm still uploading my personal short films and that to Vimeo, but as it goes, the Sour Popcorn, we might bring it back whenever, but as it goes, the Sour Popcorn is currently only found on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I will try. I've been looking at ways to do it and coding and what have you to get Sour Popcorn up on iTunes, and then if it goes up on iTunes, fingers crossed, Spotify, but that will be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, bear with us on that one.
But yeah, that's everything for this week.
Yeah, you can hopefully tune back in with us next week, where I'm thinking it might be Incredibles.
I am indeed thinking it's Incredibles.
Yeah, you should hopefully expect a kind of extended review on the first one, and then of course also our thoughts on the new Incredibles, because I've certainly got thoughts, and we will get into it next week. We are also hyping our special Doctor Who episode. Like, now that we have the new Comic-Con footage, we've specifically not talked about it because it's coming. We hope to have it within 2 weeks or so. This will be a long show. We've prepared this one quite in advance, and we hope it will be kind of like an interesting little piece.
We're not sure the exact week it'll go up, but we'll do a heads up the week before.
It will be hyped.
But yeah. So that's everything this week.
Yeah, we hope you all have a good week.
So yeah, check out Creep. Do what you want. Keep in contact with us on Twitter and Letterboxd and wherever.
Our names and tags will be in the descriptions.
Yeah.
Please vote as part of the quickfire question, as you have so graciously last week. I want a point. I want to beat this guy. But hey.
I'm not going to be sad if I lose to Keanu Reeves, but...
Nor me to Jackie Chan.
But yeah, that's everything this week. And in the famous words of Charlie Brooker.
Go away.
Go away. Yeah.
You'd have never told me we're going to do Funkos for What's Happening now, because I can get me more Funkos. That's going to be fun.
I did that because I got a really good deal on it. I'm happy.
I must admit I'm quite jealous of the deal you got on that.